Copper is critical for the movement of iron, but how do we get enough copper? Our foods and the soil are simply just not as rich in copper as they used to be. And if you look at a study, they took people who lived in France because France had high regulations against pesticides and glyphosate, and they looked to see how much glyphosate was in their urine. And they found that 99% of their participants had glyphosate in their urine. So that means that it's in the air, it's in the water, it's all around us. So even if you are trying to limit your glyphosate consumption, you are more than likely still being exposed to it. And I point out about the glyphosate because glyphosate kills copper. So if we are trying to make sure that we are getting enough copper, eating things that are rich in glyphosate, so things that are not organic foods, wheat or dirty dozen, those ones are going to be exposed to more pesticides, and that means that we are really reducing the amount of copper that is in those foods because it's been sprayed onto them and it's been killed from the soil. Copper is really critical because our cells need it for energy. So when we're thinking back to our mitochondria, there's actually a little blue pool that is inside of our mitochondria, and that blue pool is full of copper. Throughout our body, we have about 40 quadrillion mitochondria. So that is 40 with 15 zeros after it. And each one of those mitochondria require 50,000 copper atoms. In order to help our bodies, there's a few things that we do. The first thing is to work on ceruloplasmin. We want our bodies to produce more ceruloplasmin, and we want copper to be attached to it. This is going to help our bodies run more effectively and help make sure that iron is moving through the body. So an adrenal cocktail is really supportive that tells our body to make more ceruloplasmin. What we also want to consider is whether or not we are getting enough vitamin A in the form of retinol, because retinol is the one that loads copper onto the ceruloplasmin and locks them together. So if we don't have retinol, then that means that they can't be bound together, and that is where we can start to see some issues coming up. To make sure that you're getting enough copper, you want to focus on whole foods. Things like beef liver is something that used to be really rich in copper and is something that I consider a staple as a multivitamin. But even study liver now show that there isn't as much copper as there used to be. So one thing that I do is I have a copper biglycinate supplement that I take at the same time as my beef liver. So all the other nutrients are there that makes the copper able to be absorbed most optimally.